Hey guys, this is World doing some commentary on a movie that I've done last year that everyone was excited for, Bionicle Return of the Dead, which was pretty much an Evil Dead spoof, which in itself was pretty much just a spoof of some horror movie tropes, which became its own thing. Just basically talking over some some slideshow that is going on right now. I literally had to re-record this because my original narration didn't save, and I hope this one saves. And if it doesn't, I'll be a little mad. But right now, you're just seeing all the pictures I post on Instagram of a small little story I did in which my original self mock, Xeno, fought Makuta, and this was around when Journey to One from Bionicle was playing, or was released season 2, I guess. And then the whole end of Bionicle, it's like, had a chance. Why did you end it so soon? But enough about that. Let's get to the actual story, which originally, funny enough, the storyboard actually starts right here. I just add that little part in to tie everything. And I didn't feel bothered to add extra parts to it. Some characters, pretty much this guy right here, the Protector of Fire, was the only original Bionicle character in this entire movie. Everything else was pretty much mocks of mine. And what you're looking at right now is pretty much a whole spoof of the Evil Dead thing of there's this magical book or book with spiritual powers that can bring the dead to life, and I need you to get it. And the whole, wait, why do I have to get it? Can't you get someone more professional? And the whole, yeah, but you're the main character, so go get it. Chop chop. Then him getting mad. One thing you'll notice is that you'll hear music in the background. That's to hide from the fact that I never got many voices in here because no one wanted to help. I'm going to try getting some voices for my next movie that I'm working on, Journey of the Warriors. Then before we officially do that, I'm going to have them read dialogue for this movie right here to get affiliated with them. Of course, obviously, I'd voice myself, being the guy with the chainsaw hand. I don't know, probably some other characters, lots of just grunting, like, sounds. The reason I didn't bother trying to do every single voice in here, just to fill that in, was just I didn't like how I sounded back then. And I sounded a little too, probably too squeaky for my own liking. And then the reasoning for why he won't get the book himself was, actually in the original there was a force field around the cabin that he couldn't penetrate through. He'd have to have someone else get it. Which, funny enough, I think from my subconscious I was thinking of that one episode of Adventure Time with the Land of Thieves. But I doubt it would have worked in this. I'd just say that he couldn't find it and was just tracking down where the cabin was, letting him get the book. And some of the stuff was filmed out. One of the last things I actually filmed was actually this whole cabin walk scene. And him walking away at the end. And if you're wondering about that red Vorax helmet, it was originally tan, but I just Sharpied it red. But that was a tribute, or my own little tribute to a Instagrammer or Biogrammer who sadly passed away last year. Another problem with this movie that I have is that it was way too dark. Not with the whole feel of the movie. I'm just talking about like pitch black. You can barely see anything. All you ever saw was like dark silhouettes of the figures, or little shines of them, and that flashlight. I probably should have added more, probably reflective material to make it look like it wasn't as, like, pitch black. The one other time it was this pitch black was when I was trying to record when I was at the Storm Stadium. And all you ever saw was just a black screen, and you just heard a lot of sounds. Another problem I also had was that production was low. Literally all of this just being thrown together from some cardboard, duct tape, and my desk, which I have some towels holding up there. And so the door was too small. And I used that door as a hatch earlier. Then the whole chest right here, which I got from a Renaissance fair, did not come with the lock, so I just made one from Legos using a double clip piece and a black tooth. Then this flickering right here was from a dollar store lamp that I bought. Just barely pressing the button all the way and just letting it flicker like crazy. And I love how I have the hand just grabbing and letting go of things in those shots. What you can barely see is that he is opening the chest and reaching for the book. Probably could have had more light in there. Some regret. By the way, another thing that you'll also notice, every time you see a hand move, or them moving around, that's whenever I take a, either a rod or I just pull their hand off their socket and just move it around without, actually, you guys seeing it. And then they'll hold this Evil Dead reference and backwards. And then you see the, corpse coming out of the dirt. This was like the very first thing that I filmed. All of the bodies coming out of the ground, which was from a box of dirt that I got. But another thing I will point out is the fact that everything that you're seeing was all thrown together on like my first take, or first draft of the story. I could have probably tried doing several retellings, but I was rushing this so much because everyone got excited when I did like a little poster for this, which was the main character that you see, and then the antagonist, Christo, being in the background, like waving his hands over him like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get you." And you probably already know what that picture looks like because I have it on the original video. I'll probably try getting it on this. And one of my favorite effects that I've done was the head getting blown off, which was attaching string to him and pulling it as fast as I can. And you can see my hand shot pushing him over to symbolize him being dead. And then the bear trap, another scene that I thought was really good, of him running around with it on his hand, screaming. Or since I wasn't actually gonna scream or do my voice in this, I just had a sensor bar literally just over his entire, like, running around with it. And then again, jumping around, bear trap. One thing I will also point out, when you see the red behind his head, is to symbolize anger. I do a lot of those cheap little effects around that you'll notice. I'm forgetting some of the stuff that I said in the last recording. I'm trying to remember every exact thing. The tiny door that you see right there. The whole headless chainsaw person going after the main character, Evil Dead 2. Everything that you're seeing, pretty much you'll get from the Evil Dead movies. Hand Goes Evil also has to deal with the headless corpse, which you remember in Evil Dead was Linda, Mom Ash's girlfriend. I'm trying to remember if it was Linda or not, because I watched Ash vs. Evil Dead, and there's a Linda there as well. Opening door with an explosion, and then just throwing that white gum holder at him, letting his arm pop off. One thing I would have tried doing was adding some effects to it, like taking like a little sprayer filled with food coloring with mixed with water and just spray them to show blood shooting everywhere. I didn't do it for this one, but I'm considering and doing it for the next one. I know I may be rambling on, but I was intending to do this once. It looks like I have to do it again. And all the props that you see in the background were pretty much from the other shots. Again, not too much stuff. Then again, the next group of characters that are going to the cabin. Again, Evil Dead 2. More people are showing up. More merrier. And I guess while we're looking at the background, that's my robe I got when I was younger. Pretty much laying over the entire background of some old box that I cut open to set up as some little stage I have. And then the cabin was some Amazon box, I think. They just added some tape to shape it up into some cabin. Same one I used in the trailer, though. There was actually an alternative line that I would have done saying, "Enjoy your new home." But I wasn't paying attention to the storyboard. I was just looking at all the shots and then just adding what I felt would be necessary to the actual scene, making it feel more natural. One problem I also had was with Zed with an X, the one talking with green. The barrels of his cannons were white instead of black or gray, which I had a problem with because it broke up his color, but I was using it on some melts at the time. Luckily, I fixed that problem with his upgrade. And it also, not very noticeable, I hope. You don't pay too much attention. You're paying attention to how awful the background is. And then you have all these characters walking in. The gold one is leaning on him because her feet, yes, her wax. I personally gave her like these small feet, almost like high heels. And the only problem with high heels for Bionicle mocks is that they're very difficult to actually stand up with, especially on some like cardboard or carpet. Probably a flatter ground would have been better. Plus, I doubt you can tell that when I was female, I ended up adding some pieces to the back of her head to make it look like a headdress or hair. One thing that I also did too differently from Evil Dead was that I blew up the hand that went evil instead of just letting it disappear and then come back 30 years later to cause more problems or grow another me. Yeah, you remember that episode. And then the whole reveal that I'm the same old guy that you saw earlier talked to him to get the book, sent a new group, because I guess he didn't trust him. I don't know the reason behind that. I guess it was backup in case he didn't make it back within the time he wanted. Then the rage mode shakes, and then I probably should have had an extra scene where I show him grab the book, but all of a sudden he leaves with the book. Then the book just flops, he tries reaching for it. And then you see Christo, or you can barely see him reach for the book, pick it up and gloat about it. And the design for Christo is pretty much some leftover parts I had before, which I'll continue discussing once we see him again. Some of the parts actually on Wex, the golden one, or actually Vorok's armor that I painted gold, which it would have originally been for Makuta that I did before, because I painted them black and then I started adding gold and doing some black wash or dry brush to it to make it look more worn. And then the only shot I filmed outside was when he stepped on that pile of dirt. The design for him originally was supposed to be a Freddy Krueger look where his right hand had some katana blades on it, but I didn't keep it after too long. And then again, the whole body's coming out of the ground. Sure, think of Vincent Price's Thriller narration of them coming out. And giant Red Bull coming out of the ground. I like this effect because you can see that something piling up in the back, making it look like it's him, even though it's just his arm. Every time you see an arm just coming out of the ground, it's just their arm. They're not fully in there. Every time you see their full body, it's actually them, and I'm just grabbing their legs and lifting them up. I probably should have edited a little better to make it look like they were all coming out at the same time instead of making it look like, stop, okay, now come up. One thing I also notice is I'm very limited on these guys, even though you see a lot of the smaller guys. And then Evil Dead 2 montage. Chainsaw. Clipped to his wrist. Boom. Ash Williams. I find it funny how I went from having the main character, Matt, originally look more like a Iron Giant type character where his limbs were very slim at the thighs and biceps, to just bulking him out, make him look average. One thing I've been debating about was whether or not to remove that silver chest piece for the sequel. One thing I also, funny enough, added was a mustache for him, which will probably be removed afterwards. And you can see that t-shirt right there, an all gray t-shirt, supposed to be Rock. And of all the people that heard them, it was a giant bull, which was probably my favorite build mock for him, because it was pretty much a combination between Stormbeast's hand, a little bit of Skullbasher, and something else I came up with. Probably doing a little bit better of a modification. Then the whole kill them, you know, bad guy doesn't want good guys winning. One problem I actually had with Christo was the fact that his fingers, the 3 that you see clipped to his hand, kept popping off. And I had to hold them in with rubber bands, which you see in some shots. Then a small guy with the mech was another build I was okay with. I wish I did better, but nah, looks so... Even looking at it now, it looks something that Lego would made. Now, giving them credit, they probably would have done something a little bit better. Not as horribly thrown together. And I wish I had a motor for a saw blade to actually spin around. And they see the blade. You'll see multiple shots with that same skeleton getting either shot, cut in half, thrown. The only ones I don't see multiple times are the corpses with the colors in them. So this is the only time you see the blue one where he gets shot once, tries to get back up, his head gets blown off against string poles. Every time you see a colorful one, that's the only time you will. Repeat myself. And then come up with one of my favorite effects was the launching missile, which was a string attached to a missile, and I yanked on it to let it fly. And then parts flying. Again, you see a lot of bodies lying around. I think I did a good job of making it seem like there was more than just 6 or 7 skeletons. Which I guess I could have shown more bodies. There was one right there. One thing I also point out is that back in my filming days before this, I did something called Nerd vs. Robot, where the robot's weakness was you took batteries out of them, and they were playing off, I think, Duracell, them as well. And then one thing I thought was not properly executed was the twist I added right around here, where the main villain now gets involved and starts beating him up, close to like killing him, which doesn't show too well because, you know, plastic figures, they don't look that much very expressive. Yeah, and the twist right here, Ona's being him popping off his head, throwing it. Originally there was another scene where he pulls a mask out of the ground and then puts it on him. And the new look I gave him is very similar to this, but a little bit more modified. Personally, for me, Ona seems to be more of like a Megatron type character in the story. And I could argue saying that Matt is the equivalent of Hot Rod, and then you have Zeno being more Optimus-like. Because, you know, Zeno is actually the original, and Onez is the clone. And then Chainsaw on the back. Some of this was just for my enjoyment of just mindless violence. Chainsaw on the back, oh no! And then Klaatu Barada, Nikto, Evil Dead reference. He's getting sucked into the book. I'm trying to remember if any form of Evil Dead did that. The only time they ever had a portal that sucked someone into another world was at the end of Evil Dead 2. And the beginning of Army of Darkness was when he went into medieval times, but this time he's going to hell. They just have everyone flying. And if you're wondering, yes, he will return in my sequel. And then the shot right here was them falling over. Supposed to be them turning to dust, but low profits, budget. One thing you will notice is that they do get some makeovers in the sequel. Only a couple of them. You'll barely notice them, seeing how it's very dark. Yeah, he'll hide that book until it gets rediscovered, and a town gets destroyed because of it. Should I say city? The whole thank you. He has a robot hand, Army of Darkness, and my god, that is the bulkiest hand I've ever seen. That's one thing I fixed in the sequel. I made his hand a little bit slimmer. And then he's going on his way. And then the Force from Evil Dead, which could have been better. Just wanted to add it to complete the whole reference to Evil Dead. So that was Bionicle Evil Dead, no Return of the Dead. Thanks for watching. This has been Xenoworld.